We shift our focus to this story now. The Minister of Health, Dr. Motsoaledi, along with the Special Investigating Unit, have named Nonxuba Attorneys as a claimant involved in a string of fraudulent malpractice suits against the Health Department. This comes after the department launched a major investigation into multi-billion rand medico-legal claims. This probe, initiated after a surge in medical practice lawsuits against the Health Department nationwide, was authorized by President Cyril Ramaphosa. Motsoaledi says the two provinces with the highest claims are Gauteng and the Eastern Cape Province. The Eastern Cape Province has a contingent liability claim of 15.9 billion, whilst Gauteng has 21.1 billion.
In 2017, the SIU started their work by targeting provinces with the highest share of claims. And this province with the highest claims was Gauteng and Eastern Cape provinces. By that time, the Eastern Cape contingent liability in respect of medico-legal claims amounted to 15.9 billion, while in Gauteng, the figure of contingent liability was 21.2 billion.
All right, for more on the medico-legal claims report, we're joined by Health Minister Dr. Motsoaledi. Good evening, Minister. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Funo. Good evening to the listeners and viewers out there.
No, it's a pleasure to have you with us. What shocking revelations. You know, before we get to the figures, just for the benefit of those who might not have been able to catch the briefing a bit earlier on, as most of us journalists did, you made the connection that in 2015, just as the RAF started to tighten its processes, that's when you saw, it seems as though lawyers shifted gears and moved to the Health Department, and that's when you started to see an increase in the health claims. Just talk to us about the genesis of this problem.
Yes, indeed. Medico-legal claims have always been there, as they are in most countries around the world. Even in South Africa, they've always been there. But it was a big spike in 2015. And the Road Accident Fund was not only tightening its systems, it was also hollowed out. It was unable to pay. It took a long time to pay because they didn't have money. And so we suddenly saw it rising, and we made a conclusion. We reached the conclusion that it means lawyers migrated en masse. Those who were litigating rough migrated en masse and found what they regard as green pastures, which are unfortunately the healthcare system, particularly hospitals.
Then to the general findings. We understand that cerebral palsy seems to be the most common one that many would claim for. What has this report revealed?
Yeah, before that, let me just correct something there, which you said is wrong, but I want to explain the context. The Nonxuba Attorneys are not the only ones. We name them because they've already been charged. They appeared in court. The other attorneys here, we were not able to name, though they are known to SIU. We even have been given their names. But you know the rules of the country.
Yes.
Don't mention somebody on corruption and crime until they appear in court. I don't necessarily like that, but unfortunately we have got to follow the law. The second thing is that at the time we noticed these problems in 2015. I mean, when SIU started in 2017 to do the work, the highest targeted was Gauteng and Eastern Cape, but today is KZN that actually has got more claims for the highest amount of money. Gauteng is at 24 billion. It means if we have to pay what is claimed for, they are claiming 24 billion. KZN is already at 29 billion.
And collectively, 22 billion we heard today is what must be claimed. But I want us to look at the modus operandi, because you spoke about this at length, that you find lawyers, when they want to file a false claim, they would collude with hospital staff to say, you need to steal a file, because it seems the court system, if there is no file, they pay out to the claimant.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Talk us through this.
If the lawyer is claiming that you did something wrong to a patient, and you have got no file to open and prove it and say it's not true, the courts are definitely going to agree that the payment must be made. So what some of the lawyers are doing, remember, it's not all lawyers.
Yes,
there are those who are do things legitimately. But the SIU was investigating those who are doing things wrongly. Those who are doing things wrongly, they go to an extent of stealing the files, working with some of the people, some of whom are nurses, for the file to disappear. They don't only go to court to win that money. They even start by writing via access, promotion of access to information per year, to apply for that file. Because they know
knowing it's in their possession, they've already stolen it.
Very well it's in their possession, and they are going to charge the healthcare system that you didn't produce a file. Then they will go to court where they will win.
We also heard that you also find in certain instances that you've got one specific case, but you've got lawyers that go to several courthouses to claim.
Yes.
Talk to us about this.
Because the criminal justice system in South Africa, the court don't necessarily talk to each other.
It's not integrated.
Yes, it's not integrated. The judge can't tell you that, look, but you've been in that court for the same case. They'll just go on with it. If maybe NPA or us do not realize it later or get tipped off, they are likely to go away with it. A variation of that is where you are one patient, you are Mfundo. There's a lawyer litigating for you this side, but there's another lawyer litigating for you for the same thing, but in a different court. And they even charge different amounts. Like one lawyer charged 7.5 million, the other was charging 25. For the same patient, for the same problem. I mean, you can see really that it is something
really
that
hollowing out the system.
Yeah, they are really hollowing out the system, absolutely.
And then we also understand that even with state attorneys, in certain instances, we believe that they would actually have these out-of-court settlements without even the department knowing.
That's very painful.
That for me was quite concerning. Where is the legal director, the head of legal in a specific province? The health department, where would the head of legal be? Because an attorney is on brief and they act on instruction. So if they're going to enter into a out-of-court settlement, one wonders, where would the head of legal have been to have given that instruction or not given it?
No, they will know after the out-of-court settlement. Because when people litigate against the state, they usually send the documents to a state attorney's office. They sometimes become the attorneys of choice who must look for senior counsel to defend. Because, you know, you can't go to a senior counsel without an attorney. So the state attorney's office usually sometimes give the attorneys to us, and they go and make an out-of-court settlement without the department as a client knowing. That's the part that SIU must not leave. So, whether it's the state attorney's office or not, they must be taken to task.
But administratively, I just want to establish that you would have the state attorney going out with perhaps an advocate, but is there no health official that would accompany them to all these court appearances? Well,
if they don't tell him, if they don't tell us, they are the first ones who receive the litigation. Look, there are 13 state attorney's offices in the country. And when people sue you, they can submit documents in any one of those offices. If those offices don't bring the documents to you, because sometimes they don't send you the litigation documents. They send to the state attorney, then they know that we have served. They call it service. We have served the state. And if they don't want to tell you, they go on with the documents themselves and go to do an out-of-court settlement. You will only hear as a department after the matter has been settled. Yes.
You spoke of the grand collusion between health officials. Is this just nurses? Is it doctors? How does it work when you've just now studied this report and seen that these attorneys were able to get this amount of money or attempt to get some of this money? When you look at the collusion, how does it happen?
Well, the collusion, as I said, is stealing the file. So that the file is not there, we can't prove that nothing wrong happened for which the lawyers are litigating. You have got no proof in front of the judge because the file has disappeared. The other collusion is about, look, when people do medico-legal litigation, they need an expert report from medical practitioners, from doctors. If they agree to write wrong reports to hand to the lawyer, for instance, about the extent of your damage, they examine you and put the extent of the damage so deep, even if it's not like that. That's collusion. I've just given an example today about the person who was claiming 70 million rand for a botched circumcision. And we discovered after getting the file, that one was not stolen, we went to get it quicker, that there was no circumcision performed on him. But a lawyer cannot just go to court and make submissions about finding without a doctor. Even with RAF, you need a doctor to make the assessment.
Yes.
If they make a wrong assessment, in the same week on this case of circumcision in Limpopo, there's another case of cerebral palsy. I mean, the terms there on the affidavit written by the lawyer are medical terms that this child has got microcephaly, has got this and that, and we found that all of those were not there when our specialist examined that patient. So that's collusion. Why did the doctor write things that are not there in a patient? Because he's a trained person.
So it means the Legal Practice Council itself has a big crisis on its hands right now. Because there's a lot that they need to deal with. So what happens in instances where you actually have a family with a child that now has cerebral palsy, but the attorney never gave the money to the family? Because you would have that family living in abject poverty and still draining the health system because they would be taking that child to the public health system, whereas the health department has already paid a large amount of money.
Oh yes, the SIU found that in many cases. Where people are living in abject poverty. Just to give you one example, which happened in the Northern Cape, there was an out-of-court settlement which was endorsed by the court that the claimant be paid 18.7 million rand. Remember that in terms of the procedures in South African law, when a lawyer has litigated on your behalf, the money is not sent to you. That's not how the system works.
Yes, it must be in the trust.
It sent to the trust of the lawyer.
Yes.
But usually the court instructs that go and create a trust for this particular patient. And they don't do so. They leave the money in their trust. So this particular case in Northern Cape, the lawyer got 18.7 million into their trust account, and they started paying the client 6,000 rand per month. And they've been doing that for 18 months when SIU got them. So it means after 1 year...
How much were they supposed to have been paying?
No, the whole 18.7 is not their money minus their contingent fee.
All right, so they weren't supposed to administer and pay perhaps monthly if maybe there was an agreement, the lump sum was supposed to go to...
No, it's not their money.
Yeah.
It belongs to the client. It's not their money. If there's an agreement to pay them monthly, let it be so, but the profit must accrue to the client. It's not their money. They were just a legal representative. And what do they get? The system that we are using, which we want to stop because it's also giving perverse incentives, is that even if you are extremely poor, you don't have to pay the lawyer. There are no legal fees. The lawyer will go to sue. Whatever amount the court agrees on, they get 25% of it. It's called contingency fees.
Yes.
It's 25%. So if the court awards you 10 million, that lawyer legally can claim 2.5 million. Quite a number of them claim more than that.
Yeah.
Now this one was even worse. He took all the money and then pays the client only 6,000 rand per month. And
so
after 1 year it's going to be 72,000 and only 1 million after 15 years of payments, whereas he's keeping 18 million rand. That is due to the claimant.
So what's next with all these lawyers that have been identified now, beyond just this one that has already been charged?
No, they will have to be charged. Many of them have already been reported to NPA for criminal prosecution. We're waiting for that. We also submit them to the Legal Practice Council for professional misconduct. We also want them to be struck off the roll. You can't trust such people. So it's criminal, it's professional, and actually being struck off the roll completely.
One wonders if the fidelity account that most of these attorneys would have with the LPC would be able to pay out for some of those instances where they actually spent all the claimant's money. So hopefully, because it seems like the cases now are just mounting, they're piling up. But insofar as the department's officials, what would happen there? Is a process starting with some of those nurses, all of them? Is something starting insofar as that is concerned?
Well, firstly, they must be criminally prosecuted. We'll hear from NPA. But parallel with that,
yes,
SA department, once SIU give us the name, we must take them to DC to decide whether they must keep on working for the state or not. Usually such people end up getting fired because how do you trust such a person? But it will depend on the findings in the DC.
No, Minister, this particular case has raised a lot of questions and actually showed that there are a lot of loopholes. I mean, just even the lack of integration within the court system, where one would be able to go from one courtroom to the other to claim just on the same case. It speaks to a lot of changes that need to happen. But of course, when we speak of the cases in court, that is beyond your purview. But thank you very much for your time this evening, just taking us through that very shocking report. That is Health Minister Dr. Motsoaledi speaking to us following the release of the medico-legal claims report today.